first question that I want to have for you is, how would you describe the situation, your situation before we met?
I can remember our actually our first time we met. I was wearing like a baggy sweatshirt because I felt bad about how I looked, even though I was meeting with you outdoors. Um, and but my situation was I was the fattest I've ever been. You know, I've always kept a pretty solid weight. You maybe I get up to 15 pounds max, and then I would get back down. But I kind of as an adult always had that fluctuation where I just, up and down.
Hmm.
And I had just like gotten to a point of being very miserable and frustrated, like feeling like I kept telling myself, okay, tomorrow I'm restarting this. I'm gonna get back on the train here. And I don't know why I just was like I could not do it. And finally, told Kate, I was like, I think the reason I keep repeating this pattern is that like I've never was taught these things, like I had a great family, but we weren't really taught about health and eating
Yeah.
and nutrition. And so I was like, I think I need help because I was actually 25 pounds up, not 15 this time, and I'd stayed there. And I even looked back at pictures, Bart, before we had like just recently, I was looking back and I had gotten there like probably during COVID even, and then maybe dropped a little, but basically just kept the 25 pounds much longer than I thought when we started working together. I thought it was like I had just gotten to 25 pounds, was like, no, I'd been feeling that way for a long time. And for me, I'm like, I love playing with my kids, love being outside and being active. And I was still being active with them, but like I couldn't run and sprint and as much. I'd sprint and be like winded.
Yeah.
And overall just didn't feel good about myself. Like, kind of, I think we talked about this is like, I felt like I hated my body and how I looked. So
Hmm.
I
I
was,
remember you told me when you took your shirt off and just sprinted to the pool to hide, huh?
to hide, as I said, yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Jump in the pool. Yep. Yeah. No, I hated going to the pool. And, I actually just threw these away, but I had like fat swim trunks that I had to buy because I had gotten
Mhm.
fat. And that was for me also like just, I felt miserable when I like felt embarrassed when I had to go buy those. Like I've never been like a big old, like it was a big, large size, I mean, I think it was
Yeah.
bordering on XL, but it was large from Target. And I'd never been that size. And it was like, wow, I got really
Yeah.
fat.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're right though. I was just like basically ditching the shirt as fast as I could and jumping in. But yeah, my main thing when I got to you, I was 25 pounds up, not feeling good about myself and feeling hopeless. That's another thing. I felt really hopeless. Like I didn't know what to do anymore. And I was like, I've tried so much. And I kept trying to do accountability with friends, and that kept failing. Like we wouldn't keep each other accountable. I tried a
Hmm.
group, like I tried this online group, and there was only like one dad in the group. There was all these like single 20s guys that were jacked. So that was like, there wasn't, and the person running it kept canceling meetings, and I wasn't learning anything. And so,
Yeah.
um, I just felt, yeah, I felt really lost by the time I came to you. Like, I was like, I don't know, like, can I even get this back? I felt like I'm at a tipping point where I'm either like just gonna get fatter or I need to like make some huge changes and I need to
Hmm.
learn what to do the right way.
What was the like the quality of knowledge that you were getting from these things?
From our coaching
No, no,
conversations.
no, from before. The group coaching things, the accountability from your
Yeah.
friends. What was it like?
It was like so the accountability with friends was bad because it's like, you have two overweight people trying to keep each other accountable, right? It just didn't work.
Yeah.
You both have developed bad habits and now you're trying to figure it out. You're supposed to cut calories, but like, we didn't have the knowledge, right? So, and
Mhm.
both of us, usually the accountability partner was someone who had the same problems as me. So we were both like, we drop weight and then get back up, and
Got it.
so it's like we really weren't learning as we were going or like having someone teach us. And then the group stuff, it's like there were supposed to be weekly coaching calls, those would get canceled. There were documents with knowledge in them, but in terms of like, hey, live feedback, like this is what I'm struggling with, or even like one of the things you and I dove in on was like identity, right? And building towards an identity and leaving an old one. There was
Yeah.
no mental. game work. So it was like, here's a bunch of knowledge, you know, and I mean, like, I mean, you can read all, that's why like a bunch of people know the stuff, but putting into action is way different. And so,
Yeah.
there wasn't stuff like that, like on how to like, and that was coming from someone who I think also they grew up in a family that was fit and they were just fit their whole life. So for them, it was like, well, here's the knowledge, you know, it's easy. They didn't
Mhm.
have the guy that running it didn't have kids. He's like some single guy, you know, living in Costa Rica or something.
Mhm.
And you know, he's like some influencer. And so it's like he didn't have kids and the stress of that and a marriage and understanding how things change and you know, being a
Yeah.
former athlete, being an entrepreneur, running your own business, all that. So just a lot of like, so basically it's like here's a knowledge dump, but not really how to use it when you hit stress and when you hit certain moments in your life where you need a little extra help.
Got it. All right. The next natural question. So how was working with me different?
It was night and day, man. So, I've said this already, but will say this so people know what I went through, right? So I did accountability with other people. I did an online group coaching. I did another before that online group coaching as well. And that one got me into lifting. You know, I did a good with lifting, but like, and again, there just wasn't a lot of nutrition to that program either. Um, and so never really met anybody like you. Um, where it was like we're gonna work one-on-one together. And I love that you like I told you we have this unique lifestyle. Like I'm recording in the RV in an RV. We're
Mhm.
traveling the country, right? So it's like, hey, I do find a gym wherever I go, but just FYI, we're gonna be working with different equipment. And you were like, you know, basically bring on the challenge, right? And
Yeah.
so what I liked about working with you and what was different is that, you know, you understand the challenges of being a dad, being a husband, running your own business, right? Um, and formerly, you know, like I used to be fit and I'm not now, how to get back to there. You know, like you've walked the path and then, you know, you walked it with me. Like there was a time where you were like, okay, let's not calorie count this week, right, of the program. And you did that with me. Like you were like, I'm not counting either. I'm cutting right now. So you could
Yeah.
experience what I was experiencing, you know. So you had empathy for what I was going through. And then I think the thing too is like sometimes, you know, I love like David Goggins and stuff, but sometimes there's this thing of like, you know, you just gotta like beat yourself up mentally. You're not disciplined enough. You're not doing enough. And I never got that from you, like that thing of like I already beat myself up enough when I'm not doing things right, you know,
Yeah.
like and I'm not measuring up, right? And so I never got that from you when we worked together, like, you know, well, Drew, you just need to be more disciplined. You're just, you know, like you're so weak, you know, or like it's because you lack discipline. And it was like you would take me back to the foundations and principles of like, well, what identity are we working towards, right? So let's go there. And then how does a professional behave? So like I remember one example is like I had one day where I was like, dude, I went off the rails yesterday. Like I did such a bad job. I overate. I was stressed. I ate because of stress, you know, yada, yada, yada. And you're like, okay, so what? Like, what does a professional do, right? Like, this one stuck with me because you're like, what does a professional do, right? They just they forget it and they move on and they get back to it. And that stuck with me. Anytime I've ever had like maybe like a bad evening where it's like, oh man, I kind of like stress ate a little. I'm like,
Mhm.
well, I used to beat myself up for an entire week and then that turned into a month, you know, and now because of you, it's like, hey, that's all right, that happened. Get back to it today. That's what a professional does. And so working with you was just night and day different. You really did give me the foundation, the skill sets I needed that I didn't know. You helped me understand like nutrition and what macros to pay attention to, why we're lifting the way we're lifting, you know, why I need to move. And then also understanding like how stress affects me and why I've relapsed in the past and why I would go down and then back up, you know, and there's like basically it's always like kind of triggered by some kind of stress that happened. And then you just kind of repeat that. And then
Yeah.
you know, you really kind of broke it down like with an identity thing and you know, what are we building towards? And then another one was like, you know, you would just find little things. Like there was one you sent me kind of about mindset, and it was like, hey, I read this article, and it was a little bit like, what's kind of a phrase, right, that can help you, and so we had like
Uh,
our phrase about building the model, you know,
yeah.
for my family, and I think that's the other thing. Like you really took into account like my whole bigger goal, which was like I want to do this for me, but I also want to like clear the waters downstream for my family and help them. And so there'd be times where you give me feedback on how to help the kids and like, um, positive ways to teach them and be a role model for them. And then things I can teach Kate. And so it was just a very like, I mean, a holistic approach versus like, here, let me vomit information at you. Good luck, buddy. You'll get it, you
Yeah.
know? So I could go on, but that's the thing is like you really tailored it to me being on the road, what I needed. But it felt like you were my teammate and on my team and you weren't like beating me up, you know? And when I failed, it's like you were like there to like put your arm around me more than anything.
Yeah.
So, and
Oh.
one more thing I'll say
Hmm.
is the feedback on form, right? So these other groups would be like, here's a routine, go do it. Not much on form. And I will send you videos and you'll send me a video back of like, hey, that's not quite right. You need to do it this way. Send me another one. Okay, so I'd send you another one. Okay, hey, that's not quite right again. Do it again. But you're very patient with me, even when I would just do the form wrong. And there's still one that I'm like not quite getting, but it's like,
Yeah.
that feedback on the form and making sure I'm not going out there and hurting myself because I have had back injuries and stuff like, is really awesome. Like a part that I think is hugely underrated that people don't know that you do, which is like you're very specific. Like we got to get your form down so you're not out there getting injured and doing stupid stuff. So that'd
Yeah.
be another one that's totally different from others.
Wow. Thank you, man. Couldn't have asked for better feedback.
Yeah.
One last question for you. If someone was on the fence about working with me, what would you tell them?
I would tell them to message me. I will show them my before and after pictures so they see the difference because I'm down
It's great.
25 pounds, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And one thing you and I talked about was like, hey, I don't want to have to keep joining programs and hire coaches for the rest of my life. Like I want this to be the last coach I ever need. And I think for a lot of guys, it's like we get up in our head about cost and price and all that, right? But it's like
Mhm.
to me, I've never regretted paying you for what you did for me, right? And if I kept down that path, I just getting unhealthier and unhealthier. I mean, I would have paid that to a medical institution or something, right? For whatever was coming my way. I mean, I have diabetes in my family, right? And I'm overweight. So type 2 is probably heading my way if I keep that up. Um, and so if you're on the fence, I'll tell you, you could never have like a better teammate and coach on your team. And that you will 100% like get your results as long as you're all in too. Like you have to have buy-in on your end. But like I have no doubt that like you, Bart, will get them where they need to be. And like that you'll deep like if it's not working, you're gonna deep dive, right? You don't that's the other thing. Like you have empathy, but you also don't pull punches. Like you tell the truth. And
Yeah.
so I think, to me, like I honestly I'm like, I barely spent any time on the fence with you. I think we met and then it was like maybe a week later, I was like, yeah, let's do this. I needed to think a little bit.
Yeah.
And I know guys like they get like, oh, let me think about price, let me think about whatever, you know. But it's like, what's the cost of inaction, right? If you 6 months from now, if you don't do this, are you gonna be better off? Because I guarantee
Mhm.
you with Bart in 6 months, I'm proof of this, I'm better off. And now I've been going 3 months on my own. And as we at the time of this recording, and I'm still crushing it like we were when we were together because you gave me the tools I needed to succeed on my own. And so I think it's like if and another thing too for guys to think about is like if you don't have a family history of knowing and understanding health and how to handle stress and that identity, um, you do need a coach. You need someone to give you the foundation to build on. Like it's not taught in our society. It's kind of like wealth isn't taught. Health really isn't taught. Like we were all grown up learning about the food pyramid, which is not right. So you need that. You need someone on your side to teach you, to guide you through the stressors, to get you through it. So when you handle it and you go out on your own, you can crush it. So I think that's the other part. Like for me, it's like I'm 3 months out from our program. It's not like I just ended our program and I'm not sitting
Yeah.
here being like, oh man, I got to rehire Bart. Like I'm sitting here like, hey, uh, I'm taking it to the next level. Like now I've got a few other goals I'm trying to get to. Then I'm going to start trying to, bulk and add and do these other things that I never imagined I could do.
Yeah.
And the other thing I'll tell you, like, I thought of this last week. I thought of you last week, Barton. We hadn't even scheduled this yet, but I went on a family walk, right, with my and in the evening, and my little 6-year-old Teddy loves to like race and sprint, you know,
Yeah.
and so he kept being like, "Let's race, Dad." And I'm like, "Okay." And so I'd sprint, you know, I sprinted and chased him, and we did one. Then he wanted to do it again, and I sprinted and chased him again, and we ended up doing that like 6 times. And by the end of it, like, you know, by the way, I destroyed him. I kept giving him head starts, but I wouldn't let him win, you know. So I'd be like, "You get a head start," and then I'd always catch up and get him at
Yeah.
the end. But I really thought about that. I was like, you know what? Like before Bart, I would have done 1 or 2 and been like, "No, buddy, I can't do anymore." But now, like post Bart, it's like, okay, how many more you want to do? I'll keep going. I'll go all day, you know, and my energy is like through the roof.
Yeah.
And again, that's 3 months out from our program ending. I'm the dad I want to be. You know, I'm the guy that has the energy. They know, like, I'll play with them. I'm gonna run around. I'll go on a bike ride. Let's go shoot hoops. And so, like, you know, and I'm at an event with other dads, and there's some dads you can tell like they can't quite get out there. They keep getting injured. And I'm not trying to dog them, but it's like
Yeah.
who I want to be for my kids. Like that's one of the gifts you gave me is like, I'm that guy that I want to be. I have that energy level. And, you know, if my kid wants to sprint 10 times with me, I can sprint 10 times with him. And and he gets so happy. Like he's running and smiling backwards as he sees me coming. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
you know, who wouldn't want that? And so I think that's the other thing for these dads on the fence is like, are you the dad you want to be right now? Is there a next level for you? Because again, that's more than worth it, you know, like paying that cost to be the dad that you have in your head and to be that guy that has the energy that wrestles them, that runs with them. I mean, like, there's no doubt in my mind that you help me. Like, I wouldn't be that guy without you. So it's huge.
Thank you.
No, thank you, man.